All right. Well, hey, good afternoon. And again, we thank God for this opportunity. Again, I am Dr. Craig Tatum. I serve as president for the Saginaw African American Pastors here in Saginaw. I'm grateful again to have this opportunity. Periodically, we have this privilege to again share and meet some of Saginaw's finest impact agents in this city that help transform lives. And today is going to be a great conversation. I'm here with, again, my friend and colleague, Superintendent Christopher Pryor, who serves as pastor for Victorious Believers Ministries. And our special guest on today is none other than Miss Renee Johnston, who serves as the president or CEO for Saginaw Community Foundation. And our topic today actually centers around this whole notion of education. And that's one of the things that we advocate for. Superintendent Pryor is kind of our lead person as it relates to that. Saginaw African American Pastors is a Christian faith group dedicated to addressing social, racial, and economic justice at all levels of community with faith and strength and boldness in order to ensure that racial equity is the experience of all citizens in the Saginaw County. And so we're all about education, we're all about information, we also do inspiration as well, but today our focus is on enlightening the community on better ways to access not just funds to build houses and things like that, but there are millions of dollars out there that can be used to impact this city. And our guest today is going to help us with that. So again, let me just welcome again my friend and colleague, Superintendent Pryor. Come on, Superintendent Pryor.
God bless you. Well, what a joy it is to be here on today and this afternoon. For those of you who are watching us on today, we want you to share this. Make sure that more people know and receive the information that they need to be able to grow, for our children and our grandchildren to know that there are funds available for them. And we have a special guest on today, Dr. Tatum, which is a great time. I don't know if you know a John and is it Lene George?
John and Lynn George, yeah.
Yes, and many of you may know of her parents even before this. One is an educator, I think he's a General Motors worker, and here's their proud little daughter that we're excited about having on today with us. So what a joy to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here today and just to be a part of your program. This is a wonderful opportunity.
Yes, the Saginaw Community Foundation president. As a young lady, these endeavors did you ever dream that you would be in this position?
Had no idea. This was not even part of my goals or aspirations. I just thought I would get a law degree and come back home and use that degree to better people as well through that opportunity, but God had a different plan for me, so here I am.
Outstanding. Listen, just real briefly, can you give us an overview? What is the Saginaw Community Foundation?
Yes. Well, the Saginaw Community Foundation is an organization that really was established to lay the groundwork for the future of the community, to make sure that the community is in good standing, that we're laying the groundwork for good education, economic development, you name it, that we could work with individuals to make sure that there are funds available to address the needs and opportunities that our community may face at any time of our existence. So through wonderful donors, we're able to establish endowment funds, and with those funds, we can address agency needs, we can address individual needs, educational needs, but once again, it's to really support a broad range of needs and opportunities in the community.
Outstanding.
Superintendent Pryor and Renee, Mission in the City has been a benefactor of some of the funds that you provide leadership over. It's made a tremendous impact. Mission in the City under the late Dr. Rufus Bradley Sr. and currently myself, we've been benefactors. It has made a tremendous difference. And part of our job, we just want people to know that there are funds available. So can you tell us a little bit about Saginaw Community Foundation, in your own words, how it started, kind of some of the funds and things that we have available for people today?
Right. Well, if I could just start off and just say, because typically, when you think about the traditional use of a community foundation, it was to establish endowment funds, once again, for the future to support the community. But if I could just take the example that you've laid out for us today, when I think about when I first met Pastor Bradley, he really looked to the Community Foundation for some guidance. So I really want people to understand that that is another role we can or have played in the community. A lot of times, whether it's a neighborhood, an individual, volunteers, they have wonderful ideas that they would like to take things in their own hands to do good in the community. So we encourage individuals or groups to look at the Community Foundation as a partner to help offer that guidance, whether it's guidance to know how to write a grant, whether it's guidance to know where to find the funds, whether it's guidance to know how to go about doing a community project. I'd like to add that to the conversation here today, that that is something too that the Community Foundation can offer, besides just offering grants and scholarships. So I wanted to mention that too, because that's really how I got to know Pastor Bradley initially, is, he had this grand idea of what he could do in his neighborhood, and wanted to know how to put the pieces together. Don't get me wrong, he had the pieces. He was already on the right track. But I mean, I think he saw, having a conversation with me could help validate or solidify some of the plans that he had. But then, of course, needing funds to execute that plan, that was something else that the Community Foundation could offer, right? And so how one would go about doing that is we do offer grants. Our grants are available on a quarterly basis. And we always just say one of the first steps is just call our office. I have a team at the Saginaw Community Foundation that are there to hear you out, to hear what the plan is, to help you validate that this is a need in the community.
Correct.
We never want to say that what somebody wants to do that there isn't a need, but let's just face it, we're a medium-sized community with not so many financial resources, right? Collectively, the Saginaw Community Foundation is maybe one of a handful of other funders. But we want to make sure that we're leading you on the right path as to what will help you be successful. So we always say, start off by calling the Community Foundation. Let's talk about what your project is, right? And then if we feel that it has the possibility of receiving some funds, then we'll give you the ability to write an application or to fill out an application. And I'll say if you go about it in a way that gives us time to work with you, because the last thing you want to do is come to us the night before the grant is due and say, how does this look, right? That's the last thing you want to do, because if we can really help you, we ask, give it time, right? Do your research. It's always good to do your research, and if you want to come to the Community Foundation for funding, get to know when our deadlines are.
Yes.
Identify one of those deadlines that you want to go, that you want to go after, and then give us the opportunity to work with you to make sure that your application is going to be successful, right?
Renee, if I could say this, and I think you've said a mouthful of very important stuff. The first thing that I gleaned is that it can start with an idea, and I appreciate the fact that you said, hey, our team is willing to sit and listen and help you think the process through, which I think is excellent, because everybody thinks they have great ideas, and I'm not saying that they don't.
Right.
But there again, as you've already explained, I think for us, it's about making sure that we get the most bang for our buck. We want to make sure that we're being impactful, and sometimes it's a matter of thinking through the process, and you may have to change it, but having that expertise is tremendous, because there are people that have tons of ideas, they just don't know where to go. And then when they ultimately come to you, as you said, sometimes it's at the 9th hour where you can't reverse or try to correct it. And so then they miss that window of opportunity. So I think that's very critical.
Well, and let me just say that another role that the Community Foundation has played as well is making connections,
There you
right?
go.
Yes.
Once again, it's not that people don't have good ideas, or it's not an idea that isn't able to address a need in the
Correct.
community, but there are so many wonderful opportunities where you can partner or connect with other existing activities or resources. Because, the better we can stretch $1 by working together, that's for all of our benefits, right? So if that's a role that we can play too, if given the time to really talk that through with somebody, it's better to come not at the 9th hour, but to come, weeks prior to that.
Excellent.
Is there an example that you can share where that took place, where the partnership, if you can say so, where people may have these ideas that they're thinking of, but, they need that support system? Is there one that you can think of that manifests based upon something recently that happened?
Well, I mean, once again, I could go with the whole mission in the city, but just to take another example, let's just go with Hoyt Park.
Okay.
So Hoyt Park is, to me, and it was shortly after I even came to the Community Foundation, that I had a couple volunteers that came to me and said, you know what, Renee, Hoyt Park provided such a livelihood for a number of us that grew up in this community. And, unfortunately, it was in a state where the city of Saginaw, did the best that they could to make it a vibrant space for the city residents, but maybe not at the level that people were really hoping it to be again. So these volunteers came and said, Renee, what can the Community Foundation do to help us? We have volunteers that really want to make this a livelihood for our community once again. And the first thing that I said is, well, the Community Foundation, we could be the fiscal sponsor, right? So this is a group of volunteers that they don't have a 501c3, they don't have the means to solicit funds nor receive funds. So it was truly just coming to the Community Foundation is one of my first opportunities to say the Community Foundation could be the fiscal sponsor. In other words, allow this group to use our 501c3 for the efforts of raising funds and accepting those funds. So, and so we're talking almost 18 years ago now that I had this conversation, right? So, I mean, look at what a success story it is today, right? I mean, this is a group of volunteers that came, put in new lights, new diamond dust, renovated the warming house, all these wonderful things that now we are able to benefit from at Hoyt Park. And now they're their own 501c3, right? So, once again, I mean, not to say that they couldn't have done it on their own. Once again, they wouldn't have been able to accept the funds on their own and be able to give people a charitable contribution for that. But to me, that's one of my favorite success stories.
That's great.
And to see how successful it is today really warms my heart.
That's great. Let me ask you, on average, how much money is the Saginaw Community Foundation, how much are they able to distribute to organizations that are out there?
I mean, so Chris, that's a very good question, and I need to break it down for you. So on average, we are able to distribute between $3 and $4 million, right? So, but that comes from a variety of different pots of money that we have at our discretion, right? So, once again, if I could just make very clear, so if anyone were to go and look at the asset size of the Community Foundation, they may say, okay, $3 to $4 million sounds like a lot of money, but when they see that our asset size is around 84 million, it may make one wonder, well, how come you're not able to spend more money than $3 to $4 million? Back to the idea that we establish endowment funds, right? And our endowment funds only allow us to spend earnings on the overall asset size of the fund balance, right? So if you're to do them, the formula we use is a 5% spending policy. So if you did the math, we're spending about what's allocated to us to distribute. When it comes to grants, when it comes to the Saginaw Community Foundation able to make grants back out in the community, there are two types of funds that allow us to do that. I don't want to get into the weeds, but typically we have what are called unrestricted and field of interest funds that lovely donors have established with us, but that gives us the granting power to put money back out in the community.
Gotcha.
So once again, that gives us with those two types of endowment funds, that usually gives us about $1 million or $1.5 million to distribute back out in the community, right?
Great.
But then the rest of that comes from scholarships, because scholarships alone, we can give out about $1 million a year in scholarships.
That's excellent.
But then we also have these wonderful funds that are called agency or designated funds. So those go specifically to a charitable organization. So whatever the earnings are on those individual funds, those agencies get a distribution, if they so choose, on an annual basis to support their operations.
Wow.
Right, so that's gonna be, in that case, maybe another $1 million. And then we have donor advised funds, where we work with individuals that have set up those funds and allows them to make grants in the community. So putting all that together, that's where we're able to give out about $3 to $4 million in the community.
That's excellent. When we talk about our children, and today our focus is on education and what you all, or I should say myself as well as a board member on the Saginaw Community Foundation, it is a joy. You talked about that $1 million that is given to students. What is one of the steps that they need to know that these scholarship opportunities are available?
Okay.
Can you share, where do I go? What do I need to do? Who's in charge? So that grandparent or parent, most importantly, knows where to go to be one of the recipients of these funds.
Right. So let me just say, because of course, everyone's in a different position. They may not have access to a computer or Wi-Fi. So I would just say to anybody and everybody, your first step could be just call the Community Foundation.
Okay.
Right, call the Community Foundation and ask that question. What's your scholarship process? What scholarships are available? So that is one way that you can definitely find out. Another way is, of course, go on our website, because I will tell you, today is November 16th. Our scholarships went live on our website on November 1st.
Wow.
November 1st, every year, is when we make our scholarships available online, okay?
Excellent information.
So, once again, you can go on our website and find the link that would help a student get started. But let me just say too, I have wonderful staff in charge of our scholarship process, and right now, they are actively making appointments with all of our schools, all of our high schools, to go into the school and provide the information on the scholarships that are available, but also walk through the steps as to how you fill out the application, right? So that's another opportunity how you learn. Oh, and I forgot to mention, also on our website, there are videos to show one how to go about filling out the application. So I'd like to say that we have multiple ways that one could learn how to learn about the scholarships we have available. We have over 249 active scholarships, right? And all 249 of those scholarships have their own criteria, right? Because these are established by donors, right, that had an interest in mind of how they would like to support a young person to achieve their educational goals. And the beauty of it all is that for all 249 scholarships we manage, a student only has to fill out one application. So they go online
Wow.
and they fill out one application,
That's
right? Which then they don't have to pick the scholarship they're applying for. They, in a sense, are putting their hat in for all 249. Now, they may not be eligible for all 249
right.
based upon the individual criteria, but that's not for them to have to decide. That will be up for our process.
Gotcha.
When we accept those applications, we have volunteers that review them, and going through all the intricacies of reviewing, our system determines which scholarships are available to every applicant that applies for scholarships.
Can I throw this out there as we're talking, because there again, you said there's 249. So there might be an individual that says, you know, I've got 10, 20, 30, $50,000 that I'd like to leave. Could they start an endowment, and what would be that process for them to do that?
Yeah, great question. So really, once again, we try to make things as easy as possible, because we never know what state of mind or position somebody might be in, right? We have people that just lost a loved one, right? It could be the day before, and the day after they're calling us saying, we'd like to set up a scholarship in memory of this loved one that we just lost.
Correct.
So of course, we want to always make it as easy as possible to help somebody achieve that. So once again, somebody can just call us to schedule an appointment. I mean, we can talk about what it is that they generally have in mind that they'd like to do. But we say, let's just come on in, let's sit down and talk about this. And once we've determined which type of endowment fund it is, then we know which path we need to go down. But typically, it's really, let's say it's a scholarship. With a scholarship, there may be a few extra steps, only because with a scholarship, you get to pick the criteria. There's a lot of information that we need from you, right? So if we're going down the path of a scholarship, we will talk to you about, well, what is it you want, what is the criteria? Do you want the student to be graduating from a specific high school, to go to a specific college? Are they studying a certain area? Did they play a sport? You know, we'll determine that and make that part of the criteria. But then I think one of the beautiful parts when it comes to a scholarship is we also want to know, who is this in memory of or in honor of? So we want the family to tell us the story behind the scholarship, and we'll take note of that. We always make that a part of the scholarship.
Excellent.
So the student that receives that scholarship, they have an idea of who this is in memory or the legacy of or so forth, so that they can gain a greater appreciation of that as well. So once we've had that conversation, then really it's sign off, you know, crossing every T, dotting every I, and then getting that approved by our board of directors. With a scholarship, to establish a scholarship, $20,000 establishes that scholarship.
Okay.
But let me just say, because somebody, once again, depending what the situation may be, they may not have the $20,000 today. And we're not asking for that $20,000 today, right? If they want to award that scholarship right away, then they would have to have the $20,000.
Gotcha.
But in other words, if somebody has a goal to raise the money or to allow that endowment fund to grow, then we always say, let's work with you. If you have $5,000, let's endow it, because, the interest that starts earning on that endowment fund,
Correct.
over, we have endowment funds today that for the last 40 years, and let's say 40 years ago, it was established at, say, $25,000. Today, that endowment fund could have distributed or granted out more than $25,000. And that's the beauty of an endowment, right? Because based upon, we want it to continue to grow. That's why we're only spending the earnings on that fund, right? But, so if you invest it today, that fund can grow on its own. Now, we all know that today's market is questionable.
Correct.
Right? So we can't guarantee that it's gonna double in size in the next 5-10 years, but at the same time, you're investing it, right?
And the objective, Renee, is, I think Saginaw Community Foundation has a slogan. It says forever.
For good forever.
For good forever. And I think that's very critical because you don't want it to be here. You got $5,000. You don't want to just turn around and give away the $5,000. You want to make money to continue to work forever.
But let me just say, and thank you for making that point, but
great.
let me just say, that might be the goal of somebody.
Correct.
And if that is the goal of somebody, then the community foundation may not be their vehicle for giving, right?
Okay.
So that we always tell people, think about what your goal is, right? And if they come in and if they question the fact that they only get to spend 5%, then I will tell them that we may not be the vehicle for you.
Gotcha.
But if you want that money to last forever, for a lifetime, to continue to do good in the community, then we may be the vehicle for you.
Excellent.
That's good. You talked about scholarships and those opportunities for those being awarded. We do know the Martin Luther King Scholarship date has already passed.
Right.
Gratefully, last year, my son was a recipient of that. But can you let parents know some of the dates or the timings? I know you talked about going to the website to find out, because we don't want people to wait until the 11th hour to submit and all the funding has already been approved or awarded. So if you can just kind of give an overview of the time frame for students to know now is the time, getting your FAFSA information in, I believe December 31st are those timings. Can you share a little bit of that for those watching?
Yeah, so let me just say, first of all, with the MLK scholarship, and we try to work with as many partners as we can to make sure we get the word out there. But I would always tell a parent today, if they have a graduating senior a year from now, right? It's never too early to start planning for that young person, right? Let's just face it, we have some young people that they may be doing this on their own, but we know we have parents out there that are like feeling these things out for their students or for their children. A year from now, or a year early is never too early,
Never too
right?
early.
It's never too early because you definitely want to start that planning. When it comes to the MLK scholarship, typically, we make that available in the October timeframe, right, with an early November deadline, right? Only because we award that during MLK week,
Yes.
right? So that's why that has an earlier time frame. So I would just say to parents, start looking, whether you're in Saginaw, Bay, or Midland, because we work on this scholarship together. So check out each of our websites. And I would say do that now anyway, right? Do that now anyway, whether you have a graduating senior in 24 or a year from now. Start looking at each of our websites right now and start planning. And then for us, like I said, unfortunately, the MLK deadline has passed, but it is such a wonderful opportunity for young people who see the dream that Dr. Martin Luther King have, and all we really want to see a young person show us is how they would resemble that, right? What are some things that they see that as young people they can do or they'd like to see done to really help that dream come alive for our communities? So just want people to be aware of that. If you've missed the deadline, take a look at that for next year.
Renee, do you know of a kid success story, a kid that has taken advantage of, a scholarship and has gone on to be very successful? I'm sure you probably have so many of those, but can you share one kid that sticks out to you?
Well, let me give you two different stories. I can't say I know where they are today, right? I can tell you that they fulfilled their post-secondary goals. But let me give you one success story just to kind of share with you the types of scholarships we have. So I'll never forget, we had a young woman who was going back to school. So this is your non-traditional student, right? Your non-traditional student. So somebody who, may have graduated from high school, never really had the opportunity, whatever the situation may have been, but to start their post-secondary goals right away. So for this individual, it was quite a few years later that they were ready or were in a position that they could go back to school. And we have some great vocational scholarships available. Once again, you don't have to pick them. You just need to know that we have them, right? And you have to go about filling out that application online. That young lady ended up getting like 5 scholarships.
Wow.
Right?
That's great.
And even if one of those
Excellent.
scholarships provided a $500 or $1,000, collectively, she was awarded about $5,000.
Wow.
So I mean, I wanted to share that example with you because hopefully that gives an individual hope and encouragement. You know, if somebody wants to say, oh, you'll never get one of those. You never know unless you try, right? We've all heard that before. So I'd only encourage young people, if you think there's a possibility, why not go for it?
Excellent.
Another example I'd like to give you, so once again, because we have several scholarships and you are applying for as many that you may possibly be eligible for, we had a young lady who initially applied because this was our Michigan Sugar Scholarship. And with the Michigan Sugar Scholarship, the way it was established, it was meant for the children of an employee of Michigan Sugar. So this young woman, being a child of a Michigan Sugar employee, applied. But as she was applying, she noticed that, oh, there's a scholarship available if you are a Team 1 credit union member.
Right.
So she applied, she became a member of Team 1
Wow.
credit union. And then, so I could keep going, but it turned out that even though she went in with the idea of applying for 1 scholarship, she got 3 scholarships.
Wow.
Right? So I mean, you never know
Oh,
unless you go for it.
And I can imagine if those go over the 240 plus scholarships that are there, people will see that there are more opportunities. Maybe you're a Saginaw High student or Arthur Hill student. There's so many different ones that are allotted or awarded for those who apply, and I think that is critical. June, we do the big celebration, and we're down having a great time, and people are recipients of the scholarships. Do you have a number annually of those who are recipients of those awards?
Well, I will tell you, last year, or I should say this year, we were able to award scholarships to 385 students.
Wow, that's great.
Now, mind you, that we had about 600 that applied, right? But we are getting closer and closer, at least giving all of our applicants, I mean, that's our goal, right? If we have 600 that apply, we'd like everybody to get a scholarship. We're getting a little closer every year, right? Because the more scholarships we have, but we're trying to stretch them. We do, because a student may qualify for more than 1 scholarship. We
Gotcha.
tend to cap it off, you know, to whether it's $5,500, just so we know that we're at least getting more, awarding more scholarships to students. But, you know, at the same time, we know that the more we can give one student, the better as well. So, but 385 students, which is, I would say the average is between 300 to 400 students that we're able to award.
That's excellent.
And let me just say really quickly too, I'm sorry, let me
Please.
just say that because each of our scholarships have different criteria, some of our scholarships do have a financial need as part of the criteria, and some of them do not. So I know there are some parents that may think, my child will not get one because we don't have a financial need. Once again, you don't always have to have a financial need. Plus, we have 249 scholarships that you never know which one of them your child may end up being eligible for without that financial
And
need.
I think, if you will, I think you said something that needs to continue to be echoed, and that is that all you have to do is apply for one, and it puts you in the market to be considered for all of them. And there again, you got to meet that criteria, but I love the fact that you don't have to fill out 249 applications. You fill out one, and your team can assign them. So all the person has to do, all you have to do is fill out one application, just one. And there's a great chance, depending on if you meet the criteria, that you're going to get a scholarship or you're going to qualify. So I think that's very critical for the community to know.
Definitely.
And if I could just say, so, you know, we talked earlier about grants and not waiting till the last hour to fill out that grant. I would say the same thing. Do not wait till the due date to fill out that scholarship application. I mean, we have students, I will tell you, that, and this is uncommon, I mean, but I got the report that when our scholarships went live on November 1st, we already had 3 completed scholarship applications. Now, that is very uncommon, and today, up to this point, to date, we have 14 completed applications.
Wow,
I will
okay.
be honest with you, typically, students will wait until the first of the year,
January.
because they have until February to complete it, but don't wait to the last minute. We unfortunately, we've had situations in the past where students and parents are calling us on the due date, right? I mean, because you have until 11:59 that night, but parents are calling us on that deadline date. And let's just face it, when we're all rushing, we're gonna forget to do something.
Correct.
And if your application is not complete, it will not be accepted, right? So the application must be complete in order for us to accept it.
I think one of the other things that's part of that issue also is that sometimes kids are not sure they're going to college. And by the time they make their minds up, okay, let's see if there's money available. And by that time, you're already late. So a general rule of thumb would be apply anyway. And that way you could at least say, okay, I'm not going, you could choose not to accept it, and it could benefit possibly somebody else.
Well, and thank you for bringing that up, because, I mean, definitely, I mean, let's just face it, whether you use that as an example, or we've had the situation where a student is getting a full ride, but yet we've awarded them a scholarship. If they're getting a full ride, then in a sense, they need to decline those funds.
Right.
Because if it's meant for education, they don't have a need for those funds, right?
Correct.
So that gives us an opportunity to award that to the next student, right? But the same, if using your example, if a student applies today, right, and they are awarded, and they decide not to go to school, one of a couple things will happen. Either they have to decline that scholarship, and we're able to give it to the next student, or there are times when we can go back, if the student says, I can't go this semester, I'm gonna go a year from now or next semester, we can always go to the donor. And there have been times when the donor has said, we'll allow the student to keep the scholarship when they actually go to school in the next semester.
Excellent.
That's great. When we talk about those trying to receive scholarships, are there other programs that are run through the Saginaw Community Foundation that our young people need to be involved in?
Definitely. So we have a program that's called FORCE, which is our Youth Advisory Council, right?
Okay.
They're a force to be reckoned with. Yes, and we have, this is a program that we were able, during COVID, unfortunately, we weren't able to bring the young people in to be active and such. So we are rebuilding our Youth Advisory Council. We currently have about 22 to 30 active members. They come, they meet at our office on a Sunday afternoon for about an hour. I believe their meetings right now are every other week. And this is encouraging them. We are basically giving them the skills to be volunteers, how to be philanthropists themselves.
Wow.
Because they manage $1 million endowment, right?
That's
In fact, here in the next month or so, they're gonna get the opportunity to review grant applications themselves and make some
Wow.
very difficult decisions that then they can award grants back out in the
love
community. And the beauty about their endowment fund, though, is to support youth's needs. So they are
Yes.
looking at projects that benefit young people in our community. So they're being philanthropists, they're being volunteers, they're participating. They just built a gingerbread house that'll be part of the Holidays in the Heart of the City. They do programs out at the zoo. They're adopting a family. So they're doing wonderful things. And a number of these kids aren't just doing it for the community service hours.
Right.
They're doing it because they care about their community.
Excellent.
That's how we keep people in our community. That's how our children have an opportunity to know what is going on and to make them aware and to feel a part. So we want to encourage you to be a part of the force. This is a great number of young high school students primarily who are going out, getting more information. The Heart of the City that starts this coming Friday. So we want our children to be engaged. Not only that, when you're applying for a scholarship, it's great to be able to share, I was actively involved in or with the force, and that goes a long way. So get your children engaged, involved in extracurricular activities that allow them to show not only are they very studious, but they can do other things. And so I think that is very important for our children to know. And parents, we want to encourage you to make sure that call Saginaw Community Foundation, sign your children up, get involved, and let them know that they can be a part of the Saginaw Community Foundation and really helping out. So it's an outstanding. Dr. Tatum, Pastor Tatum, I just want to celebrate you as our leader of the Saginaw African American Pastors and the hard work and the time that you put in. the dedication, not only just being the pastor, but overseeing some of the regional things for the Baptist pastors, but also taking on this. Our hat is off to you for all the work that you've done. We had a meeting just a couple of hours ago, some of the things that we're trying to do in our community. So we want you to know the pastors out here are working hard to do whatever we can to beautify our area, to provide programs, to make sure that you're well aware of what is taking place in the great city of Saginaw.
Amen to that.
And so having Renee Johnston a part of this today, you're a light for many young ladies to know that, wow, I can become a lawyer as well.
There you go.
Yeah,
that was
I can
great
become
information.
a
Didn't know that.
lawyer as well. Yeah,
Excellent.
Valparaiso.
Valparaiso.
Yes, that's it. And so homegrown right here.
This is my
Your
home.
mother was a principal, right?
Yes.
She was an educator, a principal. Father worked at General Motors. And so just a homegrown person right here. So again, hats off to both of you and to yourself for what you continue to do. Thank you, thank you, thank you to the New Life Baptist Ministries Church. Outstanding job for the work that you continue to do in the community and mission in the city. I mean, wow, beautiful park. If you haven't come, he's not going to say it, but I am. If you haven't seen the many trees, I don't know if it's 18, 12 trees that are in, you need to drive by and see. But I also want you to support this ministry in that endeavor because they are an open, free park to walk around, to do so many different things, and doing an outstanding job. So we tip our hats off to you and the work that you continue to do in our community.
Excellent. Well, hey, again, it's an honor. I'm just a servant trying to do good work to impact Saginaw. And I think we all work for the same cause. We
That's
all
right.
want Saginaw to be a better place. That's why we're pouring our very best into Saginaw. And what greater way than to have those that have grown here, success stories, come back and pour back into. So
That's
again,
right.
that's what Renee is. She's a success story. They can see that she has gone away and came back home to impact this community, and I think she's doing an outstanding job. And I have one more question as we come to a close. Let's just say someone says, I don't have $5,000, but I appreciate your work. I want to donate $100 or $500 or $50. What should they do? How can they reach you?
And that's such a great question at this time of the year, right? Because people, during the holidays, that's, people, their hearts really open up, right? There are so many ways that they'd like to give back, but they just don't know how to do it. Once again, you could call the Community Foundation. We have, I mentioned we have 249 scholarships.
Correct.
In total, we have over 600 funds that we manage.
Wow.
So if you have a specific interest in mind, we may have an endowment fund that you can contribute to, right? If not an endowment fund, there might be an activity or a special project that so thank you so much for bringing that up because the Community Foundation, we have for the last 5-10 years, have really been trying to encourage everybody in this community to truly see themselves as a philanthropist,
Yes.
right? And I think we all have this myth or whatever that a millionaire
Millionaires.
can only be a philanthropist.
Right.
No, each and every one of us can be a philanthropist,
That's
right?
good.
Because you know what philanthropy means? The love for humankind. So don't we all, if I know that some of us may have some issues, but
Right.
but in general,
Right.
we all love our neighbor, right?
Absolutely.
So if you could just think of something that you would like to do to love your neighbor, to support your neighbor, sometimes it only takes $2.
There you go.
good.
Right? So if we could all just think that, right? How can I help my neighbor? Right? It doesn't take a lot of money.
That's
So we can all be a philanthropist. So find those ways today.
Excellent. Well, again, I want to thank you, Superintendent Pryor, Victorious Ministries, and again, Ms. Renee Johnson, who's the President and CEO for Saginaw Community Foundation, for giving us this space, this moment of education and inspiration. I've learned so much in this past 30 minutes. I've now been empowered to go and tell other people. I've learned a lot. This is like a master's class. And so I
Right.
feel like I've learned a lot today. And so now that I know more, to whom much is given, much is required.
That's
So
right.
I'm going to spread the information, and I'm going to encourage that giving, because there again, and it can start with me.
That's right.
And so I think we can all do our part. No amount is too little. The goal is to impact our community, and you can do that. Again, as Ms. Johnson has said, you can reach her at Saginaw Community Foundation. And again, thank you for supporting Saginaw African American pastors. Thank you for our engineer, Mr. Trinell Tatum, who has made this possible for us on today. Like and share, and let's spread the word that Saginaw is going great places. Thank you so much.
That's right.